We are live. Are we here? We're here. Hello. All right. Here we go. Make sure all dialed in here. Nobody's here yet. I actually took a photo of some banner questions from Saturday, so I'll bring those on. Look at Jay, the first guy here. Hi, Che75. Nice. Welcome, everyone. Look at you guys, Johnny on the spot, just like that. Boom. I'm still getting familiar with the YouTube stuff, and so I didn't know how long it would take for me to jump in, but it took only about 30 seconds. So here I am. Hey, Bemba Moody. Welcome. Had a good week, having a good week. I am right now making the dinner for the team, the nature creature team. Everything is happening this weekend. So Jenny and I have been I'm rubbing my face from the stress. Jenny and I have been getting the house ready, and I am cooking for my team on Friday night. And it's really good. It feels really good to cook for my team. It does. It feels good to do that. So I'm cooking right now. Lasagna. I've got I've finished the sauce. I'm doing a red wine reduction meat sauce to go in it with a couple of things that are good stuff. I'm using a lot of basil this time. I kind of had a knack for basil and fennel. Were kind of the principal herbs that I was using for this, and then I'm making the sauce from scratch. I cooked up all the meat. I'm using 3 different kinds of meat, and I got all that caramelized. I took that out, and then I added my onions and butter, and then I caramelized those for about an hour. And then I threw in probably half a bottle of red wine. And I just boiled all that down for a massive reduction. You guys, it is so rich. It's so delicious. And then I added the crushed tomatoes and the tomato paste. And I'm allergic to garlic, unfortunately, because of migraines. But I can make a hell of a sauce without it. And so, yeah, I got all that done. And then I left that to just simmer on the oven for a bit, and then I like to bake my lasagnas in the oven beforehand, and then I'll let the meat cool off, and then I'll make the layers. So I'll make the layers tonight. So I'm excited. It's been a good day. I've been enjoying it, and I got the basement all cleaned up. I've got everything. It doesn't look like a pigsty anymore. So that I knew the team would want to see this room, and so they start to come in on Friday. I think I'm going to see Pete. I'm going to, I'll start crying if I'm really excited to see him. But Pete gets here at 4, and then I'm going to see Stacy. Stacy is bringing a lady, I believe her name is Claire, and I believe she's flying in from Scotland. So I'm going to meet them. And then the team is going to have a dinner here tonight together, or Friday night. I haven't, you guys have got to understand, I have not seen or met these people that have been a core part of this whole thing ever. This will be the first time I've ever seen them. So I am really excited. Stacy is driving across America. She is incredible. She likes to drive. So she is driving from a faraway place from here. And she's like a caravan. I think she's bringing some people with her. She's meeting Claire at the airport in Seattle, and then they're gonna come up here on Friday. So anyway, real excited about it, and I know you guys will want to hear me continue to talk about that stuff. So let's get rolling. Okay, so first one up to bat here looks like Jay is the first all caps I'm seeing, and I'll get to your question first, Jay. But let me say hello to a few people. Hi, Craig. It's good to see you. Hi, Catlin. Great to see you again. Thang Dang, and welcome back. Hi, Baron Nader. Nice. Cindy Full. Nice. Hi, Cindy. It's good to see you again, love. Mythological Muse. Hey, great to see you. And we see that Jay. Look at Jay's on the spot today, man. Jay is on it. Hey, Pete. Pete's here. Nice. And Matt. I know you, Matt. Nice. Twisted Pixie. I remember you for sure. And of course, Fortune. What would nature creature be without Fortune? All good. Yeah, it's warm outside. It's 80. Our weather's going to be amazing this weekend. We have absolutely amazing weather this weekend. And there is Mr. Shan. Love it. Hello. Okay, so there's Jay's question. Chuck, I need a bit of help understanding the conflict between the KM and the Roman Empire. If they are against each other, then does it mean the Roman Empire were or was infiltrated when creating religion? Okay, this is a great and insightful question, Jay. So let's go with it at the first part here. I need a bit of help understand. Okay, the conflict between the KM and the Roman. Okay, so the Roman Empire was eventually captured by the KM. Rome was in its heyday in probably around 200 AD. And that's when they were just absolutely killing it. And within a short period of time, by 325, the empire was collapsing, which is why they created Christianity. Now, the KM had already long moved into Rome long before they began to collapse. In fact, the KM was the reason for Rome's success for so long, not only because of Alexander the Great and his work, but the KM were also infiltrating all. You guys remember all the states west of the Mediterranean. They were moving into basically regicide the countryside, all the way to the coast, all the way to France, all the way down into Spain, all that Western society. And remember, that ties into the Celts, because remember, the Celts are the Cantechian STOs. But before we get into that, so talking about the Roman Empire, so this is why the Roman Empire actually converted. They didn't convert, but they began a regime change in 325. And the Christians went from being food for the lions in the Colosseum to being basically the stormtroopers for the Catholic Church. And this began the emphasis or the ethos for what would become the Crusades eventually, way down the road, because Rome was never an empire created for the betterment of all society. Rome obviously was created for the Roman Empire, the Roman society. They're going to do what's in their best interest, like any city-state would. I'm not condemning Rome because they had that. Like any city-state would. And then just like any kingdom, any like Sumer, Uruk, the original city-states, your population grows, and you have to have some kind of society that has some type of value system that it aligns to, so that people aren't out just killing each other, that there's no harm going on in the society, and you have a manageable empire. And so what the KM went in and did after Rome became this amazing country and basically took over all of the Mediterranean, once that occurred, they had the power. And this is when corruption moves in. As you guys know this, as a company grows larger and larger, it becomes more apt to corruption. There's more ways of covering up corruption. There's more ways of getting away with it. There's more people involved. There's more scenarios. There's more layers. And so the corruption of Rome happened over a long period of time, which was the regicide and the taking over of what was undergirding Rome, the leadership. And that's why all the bishops, there were no European bishops at the Council of Nicaea. These were all inside. This was all KM. There were listen to the lectures from Dr. Joseph Campbell, and he'll explain to you that there was no representation from England, from the West. It was all inside, the way that Christianity was formed. And that's the black snake. That's the black snake, because we know that by the time the Roman Empire converted to Christianity, they were already collapsing. The leadership intentionally collapses the empire, because this is what creates regime change, which then allows the controllers to come in and from the very beginning blossom corruption. These, as you guys know, the West was already developing far before the KM moved in from the mountains, the Caucasus Mountains. And they left in 900 AD ish. There's argument about that. And then they moved. That's when they moved towards the Roman Empire and to take over that countryside. But remember, they already had their spies that had fully infiltrated Russia, which is why they knew they were going to be attacked. They had already moved their people. Remember Phoenicia, the Phoenicians, who are running the money systems of the Mediterranean. This all harkens back to what built Rome, the Mediterranean Sea. Trade and war. And remember they had that war, they had an ethos of war, but they had this tremendous power that was coming out of the Mediterranean, right? And so all of that corruption was already there, developing, as you guys know from our studies, developing alongside the KM, who is in secret. They're in secret. They're practicing their secret Satanism, which was the beginning of the Babylonian money magic. Okay. The Babylonian money magic was the demonology, you could say, that was communicated between the KM there in the Levant, and then the Phoenicians there in the Mediterranean. And Satanism was the communicator between these empires. That's the cohesive thread. That's what drew them together. And the power and money of Phoenicia mixed with the satanic knowledge and practice of the KM congealed together. And in my opinion, this is what really was what undergirded the Roman Empire. Because by the time the Roman Empire was falling in 325, it was already corrupted. They're weakened, as Joseph Campbell said in his lecture. It was like a snail that had been removed from its shell after Rome fell, because Alexander the Great had completely taken over all of the coastline, had taken over all the surrounding area of the Mediterranean Sea and Egypt. But he died at 33. I could tell you stories about Alexander that are beautiful between him and his father. But anyway, Rome was when Alexander the Great died. This is the death knell, because he's the leader. He's the reason why this empire is succeeding. And when he fell, and the Roman Empire lost its face, basically, and it was taken over by these other groups. This was basically that regime change, the destruction of an empire to allow the corruption to move in. I believe wasn't it the Persian Empire? I can't remember. My history's bad. But anyway, does that answer your question, Jay? Let's go back to look at your question, make sure I answered it. Okay. If they are against each other, then doesn't mean the Roman Empire were infiltrated when creating religion. Yeah, the religion is the corruption. Do you understand? When Rome made Christianity a law, right there's your corruption, because you're taking away free will. You're taking away free will. You're telling the people, if you don't believe this way, you're going to burn at the stake. If you don't practice in this way, we're going to hold you in prison, we're going to harm you. Okay, this is how you know from its inception, from its organizing ethos, the very beginning of it, it was already designed to be a capturing egregore. It's designed that way. It was originally designed that way. And this was to unite, remember, all the Roman people into one belief system, namely Christianity. So it was corrupt from the beginning, and just in how it came together. It was corrupt from the very start. Yeah. What am I getting here? Top chat. I want live chat. Holy smokes. Sorry, guys. I was in the wrong section. You guys have probably... Yeah, you're correct, Catlin. How do I show Catlin's picture there? Oh, I can't. Okay. Yeah, you're correct. You're correct, Catlin. Because every empire has its own interest in mind. Partnership cultures died out. The Mycenaeans, the Minoans, and the Mycenaeans. That was the last partnership culture. Terence McKenna talks about this in his books. And when we were partnership, when we were oriented to tribal systems, you see, this is basically you're living off of the land, and you're in partnership. You're in cohesion with the other local tribes. You're all working together to live, to survive, because the earth is a tough place to survive. Okay. And so what happens is when you get more and more people together, right? You see, you're just instigating conflict. You're when you mix that many people up, and you start mixing people up that much, the diversity itself is going to cause some headbutting. And this is where you get the idea of governorship and so forth. And so it's just that Rome took on the dominator society like Babylon. Babylon was the first truly dominator society, and before that was just small city states. Uruk, Sumer, the first city states there in the Fertile Crescent. Yeah, I want to be talking with you guys, not at you guys. Okay. So anyway, that kind of gives you a picture, Jay, of your question regarding to Rome. And I hope that answers that. I'm going to read after and see something here. Very nice. I wish you could be here, Cindy. I wish you could do it too. Yeah, Claire from Scotland. Yeah. I can't wait to see her. She's apparently friends with Stacy. And apparently they had already a connection, which is incredible. And I think Stacy's picking up somebody that she was in connection with, because Stacy has her own stuff that she does. She has her own humanitarian work that she does. And so I guess Claire was tied into that. So they're actually already friends. So it's awesome. Hello, Michigan. Hi, Daniel. Welcome. Okay, so Fortune, what's going to happen is I'm going to be live on Saturday. Our Saturday show this weekend, guys, is going to be at the location, and I will be basically just presenting my life story and the unusual way that I grew up, and then how all of that shifted, why I left Christianity, what caused that, the conundrum I was in when that was going on, and then cancer, which was the death knell in many ways. And then from cancer, I left, came here to Washington, and had basically about 12 solid years of real difficulty, real humiliating difficulty. All good though. And then out of that crushing came Nature Creature. And speaking of crushing, live Save 20, we added another number to our live saved. That came out of our Zoom meeting on Sunday. And Jerry had some very, very kind words to say. And he was very gracious in what he had to say. And he had a few things to say in regards to his family, and how our work here that we've been doing here at Nature Creature has been a very positive and helpful influence for him and his daughters. That's just really incredible. And so, yeah, that's what that's about. That's why we have 20 now. So that's for you, Jerry, my friend. That's for you, buddy. Okay. Good deal. You guys need to know those updates, so I'm glad that came up. Okay. NCP, exciting time. Will the video be? Yeah, we're going to have it available to you guys live. It'll be available live. Okay. I'd love to hear your thoughts on digital currency and why we shouldn't fear it. I'm one of those very skeptical of it. Yeah, and I really understand, Twisted Pixie. First of all, I think that many people, part of the answer to that is realizing that I think many people think they're more autonomous than they really are. I don't think most realize just how tied into the system that we already are. To be honest, I think it's kind of illusional. I won't say delusional, because I wouldn't want to put any kind of negative notion on who is this way. But I think it's a bit illusional to think that they already don't have their claws completely sunk in. Because they can read your bio from space. They can read your heart rate, blood pressure, temperature, everything about you, and they don't need anything in you to track you. They can find you off of your heartbeat trace in the same way you would find a perpetrator from their fingerprints. And just basically being alive ties you into the network. The network is not entirely like scientific. It's also mental. They have patrol and they have control in the field outside of your conscious waking mind, and they can enter your mind. They can remote walk into your consciousness if they want to, from anywhere. And so I think people don't understand that the claws are already there. How can I put this? The digital currency thing is not an asking permission thing. How else can I put it? In other words, you can't stop it. Another way to see that is when you have a child that's 2 years old. Well, when they grow to 4 years old, they're going to get taller. You can't stop that. You can't, unless you like fill them full of drugs and screw up all their hormones, obviously. But if you just leave them to do their thing and, they're eating 3 squares a day and, doing their thing, doing the kid thing, in 2 years, they're going to be taller, bigger, heavier. You can't stop the growth. Okay? Now follow. You have to think of that term holistically. Okay? So as consciousness expands, right? Human consciousness. Well, technology goes with it. 4D goes with it. 3D goes with it. Holistically. Nothing is autonomous in an organism. Life, the universe, technology, which comes out of the human imagination, is an organism. And there's no separate parts. Everything's connected. This 3D world is an illusion that you're separated. So you think that there can be disconnection and connection. Fundamentally, no, there isn't that. And as we move into 4D, the differentiation is going to blur. You're going to realize multiplane that nothing is disconnected. Everything is just costumes. Now, tech has tied into 4D already. I mean, CERN is living testimony of that. Tech has tied into 4D already. They've been walking into people's minds unannounced since before World War II. Remember the studies we did in the KM series? They were doing all that in Germany before World War I. Yeah. They're already talking mind control. And you talk about archaic tech. Okay. So governments, the KM, those who run the world, they have been completely tied into these deeper systems that all of us just found out about, right? They've been tied into them for decades. So the very energy, which is currency in a society like ours, money is an energy. And so the very energy that runs, quote unquote, the society, do you really think that wasn't one of the first things that got tied in? Think of the way a city develops. What's one of the first things that moves into the city? The bank. Bank is one of the first buildings that's going to move into a city, along with the church. These are the energies that control. These are the institutions that control the energies. One is the spiritual energy, one's the material energy. And these two institutions are the first things to establish themselves in any society. Just go back in history, you'll see it all. Any monolithic society had these. Any organized society. Okay. So as we develop, you can't take ideas and safeguards and fundamentals that you always relied on for understanding in that smaller world that you've been living in. You can't just cut and paste the fundamental material stuff from 3D any more than you can cut and paste the fundamental spiritual stuff from 3D as we move in. See, now your question ties into everything because everything is tied into that. in a dominator culture, in the society as it is right now. Money. And so there has been a, what can I say? There's been what's the word? So in regards to the digital currency, that is already tied into the mind systems that have been in place since before World War I. All of society is an egregore. Everything you see on media is fake. It's the same thing with money. Fiat money is fake money. It doesn't really exist. And so here's the catch. As we move into 4D and this higher human awareness situation, you see, transparency goes with it also. Again, a holistic organism. And you can't, in an awakened society, you can't have a corrupt money system running an awakened society. The reason why they've been able to have the money system so corrupt is that our society has not been awakened. That's why they've been able to have the money system so corrupted until right now. You see, because now the receipts come due. Now they can't hide it. The public can access it through the internet, through these different systems, dark web, whatever. There's ways to get the information. So they can't hide it. So as we move in our awareness, as technology goes along with that, we have to go into a digital currency, which is just as connected into you as they already are. There's a quantum system, that word might be familiar or not familiar to you, but there's a quantum system that's in play right now. And the quantum system are computers that are even past the computers we're using right now, because you guys know they're way ahead of us in tech. They're not just working on the Macs that we're working on. They're way ahead of us in tech. And so this is why they've walked into AI, and this is why computers have gotten so much quote unquote smarter. They also are developing. Okay, so I say all that to say everything's connected. You can't hide. And this is what I think people that see this digital currency as a threat, this is what I think they miss. What they miss are two things. First of all, they're under the notion that we're doomed. So they're just looking and waiting for what is it that's going to finally cut our head off? What is it that's going to finally pull the rug out, right? So everyone is kind of in that position that doesn't think humanity is going to emancipate itself. So everyone who's a doomer and doesn't think humanity is going to emancipate itself and that humanity is going to be taken over further by the former controller systems are just standing there watching the landscape, waiting to find that one hint that says, there it is. And then they see where it's coming from. That's what's going to get us. So some people are under the notion that, like, okay, it's the digital thing. They're not going to get us with the diseases. We know about that now, but they can still get us with the digital stuff because they control all the money and so on and so forth. And so they're convinced that's how the KM, that's how the controllers are going to continue to get us. And we're not moving into this humanitarian-oriented society. We're just moving into a greater controlled society. They're just going to move from analog control to digital control. And so the answer to your question depends on the much larger atmosphere that determines that the reason why you're asking that question. And so the answer to that question, what was your name? Twisted Pixie. The answer to your question then is, what's your worldview? Because both perspectives have facts behind them. Both. There are facts behind the idea that we're totally screwed, and there's facts behind the idea that we're not. That we're watching a play. We're having a regime change. The whole field of play, the whole theater of life is in the midst of change. And some people, most of the time the doomers, haven't realized that higher plane. They're still stuck in 3D. We're effed. They're just coming in to control us. You idiots in the awakening are just delusional. You're morons, right? Because you have to sustain the doom idea. Misery loves company. So you got to sustain that. So you go and you find all the things in the world that prove your theory, and you push that. And then you denounce and deny anything that doesn't fit into your worldview. It's the picture of the person that says, don't bother me or don't confuse me with facts. I've already made up my mind. Don't bother me with facts. You're just confusing me. I already know the digital system's screwed. I already know that the leadership of the United States is completely terrible and horrible, and they're just leading us into a different kind of control rather than what they were going to do beforehand. Do you see? And so what I try to do here at Nature Creature is not deny those things, because those facts are there. There are facts to support the doomers. Absolutely, there's facts to support the doomers. I mean, look at all the cataclysms. There's facts to support it. But if you look at some patterns that are within the doom community, and if you look at some patterns as to what is happening right now, the change that's happening right now, you can cognitively, through common sense logic, say to yourself, there's no way what is happening right now in the Middle East would be happening if we were moving towards doom. They would have never broken up the WHO. That would have never been broken up. Well, all of those, it's hard for me on the spot to think of all those three-letter agencies, but all of those enormous world controlling agencies are systematically being broken up. Look what happened to the climate change narrative. That was supposed to be the narrative that was sustaining and supporting all the reason for the hysteria madness. Was climate change, was the undergirding factor, along with the COVID thing. Those were going to be the storylines that are the sure doom for society. So we start making stupid decisions like, hey, let's run our entire country off of battery power and windmills. Moronic ideas like that. Hey, let's build tanks that run on solar. Hey, let's build a Formula One series where half the power is battery and only half is from the engine, because God have mercy, we're going to destroy the atmosphere. You see, it's madness, madness, madness. Do you see? And the digital currency narrative is of the same ilk, because it's from the same media institutions that are telling you we're going to be under 20 feet of water in 5 years. Same institution. Same institution that tells you you got to wear a mask or you're going to spread your disease everywhere and you're also going to get sick. Madness. Madness. And you always have to have a climate for that. And so the digital currency, the way you need to see it differently is start looking into the QFS, the quantum financial system. Start looking into the digital systems that are going to control the money systems, because you're going to be held accountable for every dollar, in the sense of you're not going to be able to go down and buy illicit drugs anymore. You won't be able to participate in illegal activity like buying human beings to be your slave. You won't be able to participate in that anymore. You will not be able to participate in anymore where you've got a slush fund for your health cares and you've got 8,000 healthcare businesses in one building, and that building is stripping $50 billion out of people who are paying taxes. You can't do that anymore in a digital system. You can't. Now, if the whole system is corrupted, then you absolutely can. And the doomers are correct. And yes, we are screwed. Do you see how your atmosphere then determines your outcome? And it just depends on how you want to see the world. It really does. It comes down to how you want to see the world, because it works both ways. You can make either one work. Okay. I respectfully believe the Khazars were created in the 6th century AD. No. They go back to the Canaanites. They go back. The Khazarian Mafia is just an organizing of the satanic groups that were already pilfering the smaller tribal systems in play in sort of this prehistorical world when everything was congealing. It's the Satanism. Khazaria is basically another word for Satanism or Satanists. It's just a satanic empire. And they congealed in the Caucasus Mountains starting in about 0 BC. a little bit before, probably maybe even 1,000 years before. They started congealing there. And this was the aftermath of all that had happened in the Iron Age out on the Levant, when you had all these disillusioned groups of tribes that had been broken up through war. And within those tribes were this type. And those disillusioned people began to migrate to this Khazarian empire out of the Levant. And then you had the Phoenicians that were developing around the Mediterranean Sea. And that goes back all the way. The Phoenicians, they go back like the Khazars. It's just the Khazars got organized in the Caucasus Mountains, and then they got kicked out by Russia in 900. The question is really, do you trust currency from banks or currency in general? Let's be real. They just print it and launder it. Yeah, we're moving out of the corrupt system, in my opinion. And they'll do the same with digital. So learning skills that are valuable and bartering is the real currency. Hi, Chuck in chat. Okay, hi, Chuck. Who is Hypatia? And why did they murder her? She was a mathematician. This is getting into history here. I'm unclear on her story. Yeah, if you read the book by John Lamb Lash, what is the name of that book? John Lamb Lash, and it's on my shelf in the other room. Okay, I'm gonna find it. It's by John Lamb Lash. Hang on. Books. John Lamb Lash. I bet someone's already said it in chat, and I'm looking ridiculously. Let's shop it. I'm trying to find John's book. It's got a picture of a person on the front, and they're like in the fog. Has chat? I'll go. Yeah, you guys have asked me. Do you got it there yet? No. Okay. It's John Lamb Lash, and he tells the story in his book that goes into Gnosticism. John Lamb Lash is a master in the Gnostic world and in alchemy. And so Hypatia was tied into the Hermetic philosophy that was blossoming. When was the year? This, I don't want to say year because it'll make me look like an idiot because I can't remember the year. But it was during the Hermetic blossoming, and she was a mathematician, and she was killed, according to Lamb Lash, I believe by one of the disciples. I think by Peter the Reader. We're getting into distant reading, man. This was 25 years ago, 30 years ago that I was reading this material. But John talks about Hypatia was killed because of her knowledge, and she was killed by men who saw her as a threat. And she did not tie into the religious notions that were activating at that time. This would have been probably around the time of Rome, I'm guessing, if not before. And so Hypatia was a key figure. She was one of the last people that had this basic understanding that comes out of Gnosticism. There's a whole story behind it that I've forgotten. But if you read John Lamb Lash's book, I can't remember the name of it, but if you read his book, he tells you the whole story. And the room is behind that curtain. That curtain closes. There's a door over there. It's not so sightly. And so I would leave and go get the book so I could tell you the name. Not in it. That's it. Not in his image. That's the name of the book. I just remembered it. Not in his image, by John Lash. And he opens the book with the story of Hypatia. Good? Okay, let's go back to Fortune's question. Okay. And I think you can actually get that book on PDF, if I'm not mistaken. The Khazars put on Judaism like a mask of camouflage protection. That is absolutely correct, April Kitten. It's designed for consent. That is correct. Okay. See, Iran became the hub of the KM. This is why there's endless war, because that generates endless loosh. And Iran, underneath the surface, was basically the hub of the KM. And then they had arms that reached out, namely nations of other countries. Like London was the financial arm. The U.S. was the military arm. Yeah, the Rome was the religious arm of the KM. So think of underneath, not the Iranian people that haven't been brainwashed a lot of stuff. The Iranian people are like everybody else. They love others. They want to have friendships and so on and so forth. It's the leadership that are psychopathic. It's what's underneath that's the issue. All the KM, all of these secret societies, they're underground. They go underground. That's where their tunnels are. That's how they do all their human trafficking. That's why they have found, and you guys have seen the videos of where they walk into someone's house and then there'll be a secret door, and then it always goes downstairs to some basement, or it goes into some hall, which is a tiny little area where there's an altar, a satanic altar, and so on and so forth. It's because all this stuff has to remain hidden. People can't know. And when people stay ignorant and they don't know, they don't revolt. It's when people find out that they revolt. And what you're seeing right now is that playing out, because everybody's finding out. Everybody's finding out. The leadership of Iran is effed. You are correct, Daniel. Yeah. Yes. It's been coming for a long time. Yeah, they did create the Fed. You guys are on it, man. You guys are very aware. They will. The USA world of stablecoin. Iran lost years ago, and this is just the play for the world stage, so they can get the last central banks in place. Yeah, I am now. Daniel, you're probably going to hate me for this, but I am under the opinion that we're moving into actually a system that's going to be fair. Can you believe that? Can you believe that? I actually think that, because an awakened society can't be run by corruption. And I think what you're seeing happening is a return back to the people to vote, and the return back to humanity, and the emancipation of humanity. That's also what's going to happen when they remove the entire medical system with med beds. Okay, you guys have to understand, the plane that I ride, the wave I'm riding, is not towards our doom. So a lot of the theories that people have, I won't be able to congeal with that, because the atmosphere I'm in is one of, we are moving towards emancipation. That's where we're not moving towards capture. We're not moving towards the end of humankind. We're not moving towards a cataclysm and it ends all life. And I am in the faith of that space. I don't have a laundry list of reasons why I support that idea I have. I simply have the faith that that's where we're going. But I'm not going to sit here and try and prove it to you, because faith has nothing to do with belief or proof. It's the heart. And my heart, in just the everyday and where it's at, because I never can tell my heart what to do or think, and neither can anyone else, right? It's like everything's copacetic. We are moving towards the emancipation of human beings. And I know that's crazy in many people's eyes, but I think that that's where we're moving. You can't have a world that's half awakened. You can't have a system that's half corrupt. You can't. You can't. The whole system has to change. You can't have a great awakening. In other words, you can't have a great awakening using the methodologies, institutions, means, and ways that brought us to the point of needing a great awakening. Do you see? In other words, we're not going to awaken just because we learn the corrupt systems. We're going to awaken because we learn the corrupt systems, and then change because of that new awareness. The awareness that goes along with a higher and higher thinking society, which I'm under the crazy notion that is where we're going. I'm so sorry to offend anybody in that opinion. I don't mean to offend anybody. And I also don't mean to say I think all y'all are wrong that don't think like me. I completely welcome you to think differently than me. Okay? I'm not trying to get you to think like me. Okay? Just be really aware of that. I'm not trying to convince you or anger you or say that you're wrong and I'm right. I'm just saying from my perspective, and I share with you guys my perspectives all the time, I think we're moving towards the most amazing awakening and moment in the history of humankind. Literally. That's what I think. Call me crazy, but that's what I think. Okay. The world is run by folks that we don't see. The world is run by an invisible layer. Okay. You guys are going off into that, so I'm going to see if we can part money a little bit. Yeah, I hate money too. I'm right there with you, Twisted Pixie. And I can't wait for us to leave the money systems completely. I can't wait for that day. Okay. Election fraud reveal might be the tipping point for the sheeple. I think it will be for some. The level of denial when the outright facts have been brought forward is pretty incredible to me. Yeah, the controllers of Iran will die for their belief system, just like any Christian will die for their belief system, or any Islamic will die for their belief system. And so, yes, the controllers probably will have to die because they'll never let go or change. It's like asking a Christian to leave Jesus. They ain't gonna do it. You're gonna have to crush their life and utterly destroy their ontology before they'll even toss around that idea, right? Because that's the way religion works. So yeah, they were under basically the Torah, or the Islamic equivalent. Yeah. Now see, this is interesting. I don't know if Trump works for Rothschild. I mean, what I've been observing Trump doing is dismantling the systems that Rothschild put in place. Honestly, that's what I see happening. That's what I see happening. And I'm not saying that, one opinion or the other about Trump. I'm just saying that what I am observing is that basically the system, I mean, think of climate change. That was a Rothschild basic. Think of the whole vax thing that went down. And that got completely stopped. That was supposed to go for like 10 years. That was supposed to basically put us under. And I mean, these are narratives that the Trump administration hasn't been conducive to the Rothschild ideal. I mean, think about it. He closed the borders. I'm telling you, if there's anything that Rothschild wanted and Soros wanted, was the borders to be open. And they really were. And Trump basically on the first day came in and shut them down. That's as anti a Rothschild move as you can basically do. In my opinion, I might be totally wrong. I think part of the answer to your question, I wish I could get y'all's questions that I'm answering. But Daniel here, there is already a faction in Iran already to take over. It's been settled before the first shots, but they do not have to crash the economy first to get the assets. See, I think all of the stuff that's known to us in the public is a cover story. That's what I think, Daniel. I think the stuff that, even the stuff that I know and I talk about, I mean, everything that I know is out of what I observe from the internet and people that do their own sleuthing. And then obviously you can get some truth from the opposite of what the media says, because pretty much whatever the media says, you can take it as it's the exact opposite of what is actually truth. But I think that the KM was basically put on notice not too long ago, and the activity of them, though I don't think it's been stopped, I think it's been greatly hindered. I think if you look at the entertainment industry and what has happened to the entertainment industry, it has just basically completely died. And those that were in charge of it would have never allowed that to happen. And I think you have to start chasing down the whys of why these major industries that are really influential in society, why you're seeing so many of them being dismantled. I'm just asking. Yeah, I think, April Kitten, I think that a lot of the information that we have in regards to Rothschild and these larger controlling families are controlled narratives. And I think that right now the public is basically on just a long rollout to ensure that everyone understands that the systems that were in place were totally corrupt, all of them. And I mean, everybody is seeing it by now. And I'm sure that whatever the president has to say this coming Friday, I think it is, or Thursday or something, I'm sure that's going to open a door towards all the cheating that went on during the election. And there's no way a Rothschild puppet would be chasing an election in 2020. They would be moving on. There's no way the Rothschild would allow the Rothschilds would ever allow any election to be questioned, because the elections are how they control who's in charge. And so the elections have to appear as though there's no flies on them, like they're absolutely pristine and perfect. Like, why are you even asking or even questioning if they're perfect? They are perfect. Get your hands off of them. Don't touch them. They're perfect, you see. And so there's no way that the voting system, which is how they control who's in charge, there's no way they would allow that to be scrutinized. No way. And it's being scrutinized. And there's no way the deep state, the KM, would ever allow the voting systems to be scrutinized. And they're being scrutinized. Those kinds of things are like common sense patterns that you just, it's like, well, yeah, of course. Like the WHO would have never been shut down. Climate change would have never been shut down if we were heading for the destruction of humanity. I mean, all you had to do was just follow those roads. It was inevitable. We were done. It was inevitable. It was inevitable before they said it's a crime for you not to get a shot and to put you in a camp. And if you don't get a shot within 90 days in the camp, you should be put to death, because you're remaining a risk and threat to the rest of us who have been vaccinated, you could say. That's where we were going. In other words, just let the thing play out. Just let it play out. That's all they had to do. Just let it play out. And what did you see when Trump was elected first time and now? You see all this disruption going on with these systems that they have established. And I'm not pro-Trump. I'm not pro-Democrat. I'm not pro any. I'm saying I'm pro-observing. I'm pro-looking at the situation and seeing what's happening and having an opinion on it. That's what I'm pro. So what I observed when he took office was the dismantling of the systems that Rothschild, the Sotero, the Clintons, and so forth had been building since before George Bush Sr., going all the way back to Jekyll Island. And I saw what I saw. If you go back all the way to Jekyll Island, you see a systematic destruction of the freedoms of the society, little by little, little tiny bites. This is one of the interesting things that I learned about the Cassiopeans, in that they said that the spirits in 4D are extremely methodical and patient. They are extremely methodical and patient. And so having a 100-year plan to destroy America, or the world for that matter, you see, that fits right along the lines of, well, no one would ever suspect this. That's multiple generations. That means that by the people who are at the tail end of it would have to figure out that it was from people who knew that when they came up with the plan 100 years before, they wouldn't see its outset. They wouldn't see the other side of it. When the Illuminati were created in 1776 by Weishaupt, they all knew they would not see the other end of the plan. The guy that wrote the King James, the guy that wrote the King James Bible, who edited, oversaw it, funded it, right? He knew that he likely would never see the other end of the revelation, the tribulation that he edited and put into the King James Bible. He never would have put it in that way, you could say. It's instigated. It's instigated. And so, yeah, I think all of these are good and important thoughts to have in regards to the Great Awakening, because I think it's crazy to think that the Great Awakening was not considered long ago by possibly people that aren't even alive anymore. Because you have to equal your opponent. You can't just elect some leader, bring them in, and just start arresting everybody for crimes. There has to be an educating factor that goes along to show the general public, because there are going to be public that believe the lies. Religion is the same way. You can't go into an Islamist, you can't go into a Christian home, you can't go into either of those people's environment and argue your way to their leaving the religion. They're never going to leave. It doesn't matter the facts you give them. They're never going to leave. It's like the unawakened now. You could show them the facts of corruption. You could show them the facts of cheating. You could show them the facts of certain people. They're not going to believe you. There's some people that feel that way in regards to Trump. They're not going to believe any positive thing that you say. And then there are some people that are so pro-Trump, they're not going to believe any negative thing you say about him. Do you see? And therefore, there's no sense happening there. There's no sense. And so in order for there to be a great awakening, you see, there has to be a crushing, a destruction of everything you ever knew, because that's the only way you're going to let it go. That's the only way you're going to let it go. And the only way people are going to be willing to let go of this 3D is by being crushed with the facts that 3D is an empty space. It's an illusion. And it's simply a time to experience the sensorial and to therefore integrate the experience of spirit in a tangible way, which is the meaning and why you're here, to take spirit and integrate it in a tangible, feelable, realizable, with the illusion of separation idea. What does spirit look like in that realm? And that is what we're here for. That's why we're not here to race, control, achieve, none of that. We're here to simply translate, meaning translate what it is. What is the ineffable? What is that to experience? That's why we're here. You didn't come here to do any one particular thing. You came here to grow and expand. So this all ties together. To understand what's happening in the world right now, you have to tie everything together as a whole organism and see all of these things as a whole organism. Yeah, you're correct, Bo. 3-letter agencies are minions of a larger master structure of control. That's correct. Okay. Yeah, the Rothschilds are a blanket statement. It's like saying the Jews. The Rothschilds are the Bayers, the Bordens, the Passiers. Yeah, there's loads of... Yeah, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. Okay. Do you suspect... Hi, Carol. Do you suspect that the STS beings are united as a hive mind and that they symbolically attach to humans like a predatory mind virus? Are you familiar with Wedico? Boy, that word sounds familiar. I have read on that. What is that, a company or a term? That just looks familiar. But I will comment on your other parts of your question. So you carry, Carol, you carry what's called free will. And the universal law is that every being in the universe has free will. Every conscious being has free will. And it creates karma. It creates negative energy when when you impede upon the free will of another. This would be harming that other. When you impede upon their free will, okay? And so the only way they could maintain a trap like ours, with meaning the earth, with conscious aware beings, is if they themselves go along with it. They, in other words, give over their free will by choice. When you can do that, this creates the hive mind. This creates the STS. Because you have taken the self-identity out of that individual, meaning the free will to experience that self-identity. You've removed it by taking away their free will, by causing them, or they've released their free will by believing your cause, by believing the egregore that is informed to them. So, for instance, we have little Johnny, and he's 10 years old, and little Johnny isn't a Christian. And so little Johnny is informed, hey, Johnny, you need to know that you're a sinner, that you're going to go to hell if you die. And unless you accept Jesus as your savior, there's no hope for you. And your only way to heaven is to accept Jesus's grace. That's your only chance, little Johnny. And so if you don't do that, if you were to die, like you just leave the house right now, little Johnny, and you hop on your bike and you get hit by a bus, you get hit by a car and you die, guess what's going to happen to you? You're going to go burn in hell. You're going to burn in hell forever because you didn't choose Jesus, because you didn't choose God. And so you're a fool if you don't choose Jesus, because you're a sinner. Now, in order for Johnny then to become a Christian, he has to believe what he was just told. So he has to believe the line that he's a sinner, that he needs forgiveness, that he's going to hell without Jesus, and that unless he says the prayer and accepts the grace, God can't know him. Johnny has to believe that. Now, nothing can force Johnny to believe that. Now, Johnny can be coerced to believe that. Heck, Johnny can be even abused to believe that. And telling Johnny that he's going to go to hell at 10 years old for being hit by a bus that's not his fault because he didn't choose Jesus is definitely a way to introduce hell to that individual, to introduce fear, to introduce all kinds of, oh my God, into that little tiny mind. So once Johnny buys those lines and believes that stuff, he then has taken his free will and has decided of his own accord, I'm going to believe those statements. I'm going to believe that I'm a sinner. I'm going to believe that I'm doomed to be a sinner, that I am a sinner, that I'm going to hell for my sins, and that God can't know me. I believe that is what Johnny eventually says, let's say. So he turns over his free will because he says, I'm going to believe that. I'm no longer going to walk in faith. I'm going to walk in belief. And I believe those things. And I will then act from that state of belief. Now, this is how you get entire hundreds of millions of people to turn over their free will, to give away their sovereignty by belief. So they're not going to believe any other spiritual narrative. They're not going to believe in any other idea of God. They're not going to believe in any other self-identity for themselves. Those are decided. Once that has been anchored into the person, they're not going to leave. Why don't they leave, Chuck? Because they're anchored. Why are they anchored, Chuck? Because they turned over their free will. They believe those egregores. And they integrated them. And so therefore they can be controlled. This is how you take a conscious society and turn them unconscious by giving away their free will. That's how you make them unconscious, because they have given away their sovereignty, their identity, their telos, their basic understanding of who they are and what they are and where they are. And so they deserve it because they believed it. And if you can be deceived, you deserve it. So if you're not going to learn that those are egregores, then you deserve to lose your free will. That's the hard truth. Because you've given it away. Because you believed what your authorities told you. And did you come here to obey? No. So what happens when you obey? You're turning over your sovereignty. You're giving away your freedom. By saying, I believe. I no longer am going to be a faith-based being. I'm now going to be a belief-based being. Because you can't have one and have the other. You can't have faith and belief. These two things are incongruent. They're incongruent. The more belief you have, the less faith you have. The more faith you have, the less belief you have. That's how it works. So what happens when you enter into a system that requires you to believe correctly? What happens? You kill all faith. You kill your sovereignty. And this is how you get an entire continent of people, namely Americans, to have 80% of them all are Christians. That's how it happens. They've given away their free will. They've turned it over to a religious institution that is now going to tell them who they are. It's now going to tell them who God is. It's now going to tell them what happens when they die. It's now going to tell them how to live, what to believe, who to, what should be your life goals and telos and so on and so forth. Do you see? Your sovereignty. So that's STS. That's hive mind. Religion is hive mind. To answer your question, Carol, religion is hive mind. That's hive mind. The obedient. The obedient are hive mind. The bots are hive mind, because these people have given away their free will. They've given away their sovereignty to an institution. They're no longer thinking for themselves. There hasn't been a Christian that has thought for themselves since Christianity was invented in 325, because they do as the Bible says. They do as they're told. They don't think for themselves spiritually. See? It's very easy to see once you see the pattern. But until you see the pattern, hopeless. Hopeless. They'll fight to stay centered. Those implement the Silk Road bandits, kosher cannibals. That's exactly right. That's the KM. They were pilfering from the people who were walking on the Silk Road, who were taking the Silk Road from China and their goods and carrying them to Europe to sell them for money. Those implementing the CBDC are also corrupt. So how will they use the system for their own gain? Many of them are the same people trafficking children. Yeah, Gretchen, it's my opinion that all of the institutions that have been destroying humanity are going to be brought to bear. I believe they will be brought to bear. And when they are shown to be inhumane, they will be destroyed. That's what I think. How about tomorrow's address to the nation regarding rigged elections and executive order? Yeah, we're going to find out. It's more rendering of what's been going on. Okay, why did I just lost all, wait a minute, I was reading something. Okay. Sorry, my chat just went crazy. Hang on. Okay. Rothschild narrative is another smokescreen. Well, it's dead. I mean, it's over. It's over, in my opinion. Promethean Something Channel talks about what Trump is taking down of the London control of things. Yeah. Rothschild lost. It's back to the original monarchs. Yeah. Here's where I think I can offer you some encouragement, Daniel. I believe that all of those institutions are being brought down, my friend. I don't think that the world is going to continue to be a KM institution. I don't think that the archons or whatever anybody has for the name of those societies that have been running, I don't think that that's going to continue. I believe that's coming to a stop. Okay, so for what it's worth, Daniel, and I know you may not see it, and that's totally cool, it's fine, but to offer you some hope, there's someone in this group that carries the crazy notion that those controlling systems are in the process of being taken down. That's just what I think. We still have chemtrails. Yeah, that's low-hanging fruit. Yeah, I think that they go down swinging. I think the system goes down swinging. I mean, look what they're doing right now with the facts that have been brought forward, and you just have people that just say, no, I'm not going to believe the stuff that's coming out of the investigations that they're doing. You know, it's if you've decided that we're doomed, you're going to stay in that narrative. And so I'm of the position, to give you an idea where I stand with things. I'm of the notion that we are going to be emancipated. We're going to emancipate ourselves, in other words, right? And so I'm of the notion that we're in the process of moving towards that end, because I don't think you can have an awakened humanity with a corrupt money system, a corrupt medical system, a corrupt government. I think you have to have a system that's really run by the people, And I think that you can't just turn on a dime. It takes time to change this world. It takes time to make these adjustments. And so it's not going to happen quickly. And so it's painful to see happen. Here's one from Bo. Rothschild lives by the motto, redemption through sin. Adam Weishaupt and Jacob Frank were funded by Rothschild to form Illuminati. They took over secret societies and religions. It's just all Satanism. It's just Satanism congealing. It's just Satanism congealing. Yeah, they don't care if chemtrails make you sick, and they have assets to protect, and don't talk to me about money and the end of money, because an asset is still an asset. Yeah, we'll still have money. It'll be asset backed though. It won't be fiat. It'll be gold backed. If you convince a man against his will, he remains of the same opinion still. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and you know why the normies are a little slow, Jamie, is because they are like we were before we woke up. I mean, until you wake up, the amount of ignorance that you can remain in is incredible. Like I was a hardcore Christian for 40 years. I mean, to be able to accomplish something like that, to be able to hold someone in a belief system like that for 40 years is incredible. And that gives you an idea how powerful religion is on people. I mean, when it captures you, it's a capital C. It's a capital C. And to get out of that is really tough. And I think that's why this has been dragging on for so long. And I think that it had to be this way. And it's terrible. It's horrible that it has to be this way, but it does, because human beings are stubborn, aren't we? We are stubborn individuals. We really are. Yeah, I bet it is scary. Basically, I'm middle of the war right now, and it's scary. If you could tell me why all this happening in Middle East and what is Trump's goal or end game, would help me. We are just simply removing the criminals that have been running the world. And they've been doing it since our inception. It goes back a long, long way. It goes back hundreds of thousands of years. And we basically are in the process, and I think this is the first time this has ever happened in humanity, but we are actually in the process of seeing the controllers being exposed. They're being exposed. Consider, you guys know this, the tax fraud, not the tax fraud, the medical fraud, the USAID. You guys have seen the numbers. It's in the billions per state. The billions. So the corruption, that level of corruption, it's going to take you 10 years to take it out. It's going to take you 10, 12 years just to get the darn ship stopped. Think of how long they've been keeping the Epstein files from us, from when they came out to right now. Think of how long. By the way, that those files are bait. Those files are to keep people interested and to keep people learning, pursuing. They're going to eventually reveal what's in that stuff, but it's not been revealed because it's being used as a bait to keep people investigating, frustrated, and moving towards wanting an answer. It's been intentional, really, to frustrate people. That's why they had to do what they did in the last election, was for people to see for themselves that yes, this institution is really wanting to kill you, is really wanting to destroy your personal society, your personal freedoms, and wants to take all your money. And they had to allow that kind of thing to even intensify in the presidency before this one. That's why you saw that. And you get anyone who is looking just past the surface, you can totally see that it was all just a big show. There's no way any of that was authentic, in my opinion. So what is happening in Iran is what is necessary to rid of the society, the KM. They're not going to leave. You're going to have to kill them. You guys need to understand, they're just as convicted in their religious conviction as any Christian, as any Islamic, as any Jew, as any atheist, as any Gnostic, any person who's given their life to some belief system. They are just as committed to their own as you are to yours. And you likely would die for yours. So they're not going to give up. They're not going to surrender. They're not going to agree to anything. You're going to have to simply remove them. I'm talking about the leadership. And the world is so corrupted for so long that it's like removing, you know, something that's been growing on your skin for a long time. You're going to have to take some skin out with it. You don't want to, but it's going to go along with it because it's been growing in you for so long. And so, unfortunately, to remove this hive, this group of Satanists, right, there's going to be collateral damage. There's going to be lives that are harmed just to do the right thing. Doing the right thing doesn't mean that everybody's happy. Doing the right thing is the right thing. But some people, good people, innocent people, are going to be innocent bystanders that get shot in the crossfire. As sad as that is. They are entangled. They are entrenched. Their systems go far beyond, I think, what anybody could ever comprehend. The level of farming and the amount of humans that were being rolled through this planet would, I think, cause some people to fall to their knees in tears if they saw how many children and how many people were being farmed off this planet every single year. It's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands, if not millions, every year. There are breeding camps underground. There are women that are held hostage and are forced to give birth to 8, 10 kids, and then they're slaughtered. Folks, you cannot believe the dehumanity that has been going on. And people so calloused that they're actually running the plant. I showed you some of that stuff where they were holding all the kids in those former army barracks, and I showed you guys the addresses and locations in the KM videos. I think it was 3A or something. And I showed you. And they had the employees. These are people who are working knowing full well what is happening. I'm telling you, entrenched. The STO type on this planet is few and far between. This planet is filled with STS and OPs. They are rife. They are everywhere. They fill the media and entertainment. They fill the medical system. They fill all of the controlling systems. Heartless people. They're everywhere. And that's why we had to get rid of, the society has to get rid of the core. You got to go and find which apple is at the bottom of the bunch that is causing all of this rot. You got to find that apple or the apples, and you got to get them out. You cannot grow a humanitarian, humane society that's half corrupt, a quarter corrupt. It has to be totally transparent. I'm not saying that corruption is going to end. It's not, but it's going to be much harder to be a big-time thief when all the money's digital. It's hard to move here's a good example. It's hard to move $500 billion in an airplane to a foreign country when you're no longer on a cash system. It's kind of hard to do that. It makes the controllers, it's a really hard time for them to be able to steal money like they do in the systems as they do. You see, and by moving digital, your mass crime is going to be extremely hindered if you've got a humane system that is watchdogging it. And I'm under the crazy idea that we're moving towards that. So, my friend, I'm sorry. That's why it's bad right there, right now. All right, where are you guys at? Where are you guys at? I think here's another crazy idea, April Kenton. I think our voting systems are actually being cleaned up. I think right now we're being shown how corrupted they are. If you've been following some of the data that's coming out of the machines and some of the analysis, you'll see that they were completely corrupt. And so you can't have a society with corrupt money, and you can't have a society with corrupt voting. Okay, meaning a humane society. You can have a society. You can't have a humane society. You're going to have a dominator society with corrupt voting and corrupt money. And I am under the opinion that we are moving to a humane society. Okay, where's some more caps? Any caps? Okay, hi Chuck. How about we're here in this realm on a mission to an exploratory survey of enemy territory, reconnoiter of an enemy territory, and then we exit. We go into a debrief. So, hyperbole, what I would consider this is we took on some kind of challenge to come here and make a difference and switch this world, this STO farming world, into a 4D enigma. And so I think that we are the processee, we are the keystone to that end. And so I believe that we're here absolutely to fully experience, but I also feel like we are here to fully grow. And I think in order for us to grow, the environment has to grow. It's very hard to grow in the same old environment. But when you have an expanding environment, there's room there to grow. And so outside of systems of control, outside systems of authority like that, we actually can grow, which is why I think the systems and authority right now are in the process of being torn down. And so as far as us, yeah, make the most of your experience here. And then when you pass on, you absolutely are going to refine, and you're going to keep growing because you're a soul being. You're a human soul being, and there's no real end to that. And you came here for this. You're doing it. But just being here, you're doing it. Just being here. Yeah. Okay. Rulers, that's a Gnostic view. I do. Okay, let's find another. Chuck, Space Force has handled the selection issues, in my opinion. Yeah. I think there's alternate narratives for everything that we're seeing. And really, guys, if you think about it, and this should be real encouraging to y'all, truth be known, this should be real encouraging. I think that we are on a road to our awareness, which is going to emancipate us. People, a society that is aware and awakened cannot be held down, cannot be contained. And so we are in the process. It hasn't changed yet. It's changing. It's not what it was, and you guys know that. It's not what it's going to be, and you guys know that. And you guys know, if you just look around, there's weird things happening. There's changes happening. There's outlandish things happening. Energy streams and lines that have been in place for the better part of 60 years have been completely overturned. In just the last few months, the way that it's always gone has been changed. In the basic way energy is passed around this society, it's underway. It's underway, and I'm here to celebrate that with you guys. I'm here to help encourage that level, because that's an even deeper thinker than the one that's convinced that we're doomed. Because the one that's like us, that considers us not doomed, well, then what is? Where are we headed? We don't know for sure. It's the human imagination. We're definitely going to be starfaring, in my opinion. We're not going to stay here. So yeah, I think it's all. I think all of it is part of this. Here, Twisted Pixie. Hi. Agree, Chuck. I cry almost daily at the harvesting realities. It's horrible, isn't it? It's horrible. My next door neighbors are involved. I've seen and heard too much. Oh my God. Yeah. And you know what's so scary, Twisted Pixie, and you probably already know this, love. Oftentimes when people call in, the controllers will then go and attack the people that called in, and they'll go after that family, and they'll do terrible things to them so that they don't talk. We come out of the most horrendously corrupt system. I can't even fathom it. It's incredible. Yeah, it will have to be watched, and it will be. It's going to be transparent because everything's going to be going digital. You won't be able to hide anything anymore. Yeah, we got to have a secure voting system, and we will. We will have a secure voting system. Everyone just had to see how corrupt the one we had was. That's why they turned them loose on the last one. Honestly, they just had to see it, and that's why they've allowed it to go on it as it is. And so now everyone is going to be finding out. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't think this will ever happen again, because I think the world is going to 4D. We're leaving. Yeah, some people do think the comet is coming next year. I don't, but some people do. I do notice the sun is different, Daniel. I do notice that. The sun is whiter than it used to be. It used to be more yellow. It's whiter now. Yep, I have noticed that. I think that's part of the atmospheric change happening. And I don't think all chemtrails are bad, but that's just my opinion. I've understood about the quantum financial system surveillance. That side is encouraging. The flip side has been my fear. Thanks again, Chuck, for helping me reject that fear. Yeah, you bet, love. It's a lot of it is just having faith in humanity, because we've been really taught to not have faith in humanity. We've been really taught to think that we really are terrible inside, and that's a program, and we're not. We've just been trained to be that way. That's why a person who thinks that they're a sinner acts like a sinner, because they think they're a sinner, you see. And so it's right there on the front, and you have to change your identity. And then that helps reconcile the fear. Exactly. You're exactly right. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to help. Chuck, how do we keep the STS doomers in the future? We receive knowledge from the STO aliens and do some kind of secret missions. How do we stop this? Well, we're going to be raising the base resonation of the planet, and that is going to act as a revulsion to an STS type of mindset, because you guys know the mind works through electromagnetics. It works through electricity. When you have electricity, you have electromagnetics. The mind and its systems work through electromagnetics. And so as we raise the vibration, the base fundamental electromagnetic vibration of this planet and of ourselves, right, you push away anything that would be STS, because it's a revulsion. It's that like attracts like, and these aren't like. They're not going to be attracted to STS, and STO are not attracted. And so what begins to happen is our vibration, our frequency in the society gets higher and higher and higher, and so it'll be more and more difficult for a person to be STO, because you've raised the frequency. It's sort of like if you had a bunch of tuning forks and you hammered a couple of forks, all the other ones would begin to resonate also, because the frequency, the electromagnetics is exciting those others, and they can't stay silent. You see, and the STS has to stay silent. They can't speak their true voice. If they told you what they really thought, you would shut them up. And so there's always this returning, isolating kind of idea with that STS. And as we move further and further in the STO, we're going to be connecting more and more. We're going to be growing more and more together. We're going to be connecting more and more together. And this also will invigorate more and more change. Okay. Chuck, how do we stop the STS doomers? We receive knowledge from the STO aliens. We do, yeah. And do some kind of secret missions. No, you're just living your life and becoming aware. That's your mission. If you want to know what your mission in life is, know yourself. That's your mission in life. Know yourself. And the more that you know yourself, the more you will fall in love with others and yourself, because you'll realize that you are composed of love, that you are composed of connectivity and consciousness, right? And the more you realize that that is what you fundamentally are, you see, you become that, because what we imagine, we become. And so if you see yourself as that, you become that. That's the trick to becoming what you want to be. You just simply become that. You don't, becoming what you want to be in your imagination. And you do that by simply participating and giving yourself life and risking. And based on what you believe about yourself, you will become. So if you think you're a loser idiot, you'll become a loser idiot. That's what you think of yourself. If you think of yourself as an incredible human being with unlimited potential, then you will become an incredible, unlimited human being. You become what you think of the world. That's why the egregores have worked so well to capture us, because they teach you how to think, and you're supposed to think for yourself. They teach you, they teach you how not to think, and you're supposed to think for yourself, because they teach you, all the rules of the game and all that kind of stuff, and that's not what this is about. Okay. Thanks, Chuck, for the encouraging responses. I've been down lately thinking about this. I completely understand, Gretchen. I do. It's a discouraging world right now. It's pretty ugly. It's nasty. And not real likable people are in charge. Not real likable people have been running the show. And we know that. And I think that's going to change. It's just a real ugly time right now. Yeah, I bet you they did, Twisted Pixie. They go after the ones that talk. Oh, that's awesome, John. I'm so glad to hear that. The community is helping you with your sobriety. That's fantastic, John. That's fantastic. I'll be happy to be your cool drink today. Good times. Okay. Some of you have a lot of knowledge on some stuff. I find it very interesting. I'm looking for all caps. Bo, Chuck, please explain a good chemtrail. Did you see the dimming? It's rumors that I have heard that they have within the chemtrail, the good ones are supposed to help to dissolve the damage that has been done by the negative chemtrails. And a lot of the stuff they've been using is that boron and aluminum, and then it soaks into the soil, and then it through ionic exchange loads the tree ionically, which is why you'll sometimes see those trees burning from the inside. It's because they're so ionically mineral charged, and they can with that beam of light, they can start those fires. You guys saw the videos where they were starting fires in California. That's another thing too. Have you guys seen as many fires this year as years past? I mean, we were underneath constant fires. It was nonstop, nonstop. And it's been a lot less this year. And I think it's continued to lessen, in my opinion. Yeah. Can you expound on Lemuria? So when we first incarnated into these bodies and we looked like this, when that happened originally, that was about 310,000 years ago. And the first city-states that were developed from humanity in humanity's original state, which is long before we were completely messed with in the head, we created Lemuria. And it's claimed that Lemuria was one of the most beautiful cities ever made by humankind. I think it was around quite a while. And I think that human beings were quite a bit more creative and even more ingenious, because I think we were using 100% capacity of our brain. I think the idea that we've lost, or the fact that we've lost over 90% of our brain function, it's not doing 90%. They actually think that it's just junk brain, unneeded. It's like they think parts of the universe they can't explain as junk, dark matter, or junk matter, whatever they call it. So it's the same idea in Lemuria. They had peoples whose minds were not tarnished by all of the control systems, and so they built this place called Lemuria. And it is thought that all of the ancient Eastern teachings, like Buddhism, and the idea of flow, and the chi, the life energy force that flows through the meridians of your body, this all, they claim, is ancient Lemurian technology. And that the idea of the Tao and flow and nature as one of the greatest expressions of the ineffable, this all comes out of Lemuria. And so the rumor is, or what the Cassiopeans said, not the rumor, but what the Cassiopeans said was the cultures or societies that are most like Lemuria were the Native American and South American societies before they went dominator and were captured by the KM, because as you know, the KM captured them, what was it, like in 2500 BC or something like that. But before these systems, before these people were captured, it was the idea that the Native American, the North and South American continents, as then also the Native American and the Chinese, the Eastern societies and Buddhism, and that these are actually ancient Lemurian technologies. The idea of chi, the idea of energy, electromagnetism and stuff are all technologies, quote unquote, understandings that come out of Lemuria. And so Lemuria was this amazing, amazing place, amazing, incredible place. I mean, think of how the peaceful, I should read to you guys that section from Chief Seattle when they were finally pushed out of the area. And he describes nature in a way that is one of the most beautiful expressions I've ever heard. And to me, that would be Lemurian. It'd be very, very much Lemurian. Great question there, Bo. That was very good. Or Gail, sorry, Gail. Great question there, Gail. So yeah, and then Lemuria was driven out by cataclysms. That's when, after Lemuria was established, then they just wiped all of them out. And we've been living in that wipe out, rebuild reality for a long time now. Okay. All caps. Too busy destroying Kansas with tornado. Let's see. Yeah, they want to reflect the sun because it's changing the people and waking them up. Did you see that whack job that invented that satellite? That literally, you guys don't believe this if you haven't heard of this. So this guy had a satellite, some type of satellite made, and you can tell it your coordinates. And if you're in the dark, it will shine light to your coordinates. Think of the madness of this. Think of how mad this idea is. And he literally, they had an advertisement that I saw, and there was a whole write-up on it. And he literally was going to charge people to be able to have sunlight on the go from wherever they are whenever it's dark on, at your time of day where you're at. It was lunacy. It was totally insane. But yeah, that idea of the sun. But yeah, the sun is definitely getting lighter for sure. It's definitely, in my opinion. Yeah, for sure. I love it that John is beating his sobriety today. We're having a good conversation. Okay. Yeah, it is waking people up. You're absolutely right. I always know when they are spraying the skies around here because my eyes get itchy and watery. Yes, so do mine sometimes. Yeah, I'm so sorry about the tornadoes, Shan. I know you've been getting hit hard, dude. I know it's been absolutely crazy. Okay. Chuck, I have heard time not judging people. Sorry, I have a hard time not judging people. I have to remind myself that we are one. When does it get easier? When you love yourself more and more. That's when it gets easier, Cindy. It's really a self-love thing. Misery loves company. And so the more miserable you are, the harder it will be to love others, and the easier it will be to judge them. The more you love who you are, and I'm not talking in a vain sense. I'm talking in a self-identity sense. Loving yourself by knowing yourself. That's how you love yourself. You know yourself. And so by knowing yourself, you naturally will understand and realize that you're actually a very loving individual. You've just been so clouded. We all have been so clouded and bombarded with a caustic environment that we have become sickened because of the environment. And so it's our responsibility to heal ourselves. And the way we heal ourselves of the environment is by understanding and learning who we are, knowing who we are and growing in that space. And this is how we heal ourselves, heal the space, and therefore heal others. It's really what it's about. And another big thing that also helps is tolerance, learning to be tolerant of folks having a different idea or opinion as you. That also helps. Are some Chinese secret societies still good? They are Eastern societies with Buddhism compared to Western societies with Jesus. Yeah. See, Buddhism really isn't a religion. It's a conversation. It's a philosophy. Christianity is a religion. So they're a little different. You can't really just say, compare them in that sense, but I totally get what you're saying, rulers. I totally get what you're saying. I am under the firm belief that no matter what system a person has subscribed to, there are very good people that are tied into deep systems. Like, you can be fully tied into Christianity and still be a very nice person. You could still be a very kind and giving and loving person. It's just your conscious awareness of who you are, what you are, and where you are extremely limited because you're tied into the religion. But just because you're a Christian doesn't make you a bad person. It just makes you an unaware person, because the only awareness you have is what the religion has handed you. That's the only God you know. The only identity you have as a sinner. The only way to heaven is through Jesus. You see, these are compressions. These cloud the mind and compress awareness, you see. But you can believe that stuff and still be a very nice person. And my dad's a genuinely nice guy. My dad is probably one of the nicest guys I've ever known in my life. And he's a genuine, real deal. He's just like you. When you see him preaching on Sunday, he's exactly the same way at home. He doesn't have different personalities. My dad is very genuine and authentic. He doesn't play roles. Okay. So just because my dad's a Christian doesn't make him a cretin. Okay. It just makes my dad unaware. It means he's unaware. Anytime someone identifies you and they say, I'm Islamic, or I'm atheist, or I'm Jewish, or I'm Buddhist, whatever the case may be, if that's their gig, like that's all they are, then you know right on the front, okay, then their consciousness is limited to the tenets, the tenets, the directives, the ethos of their belief system. So if they're really hardcore Buddhist, right, well, then I know that, okay, well, then this person doesn't believe in any kind of God. They definitely believe in the idea of nature and the idea of sacred geometry and the idea that there is no such thing as the self. The true Buddhist wouldn't believe in a self-identity. There would be no such thing. All is part of the one, which can't be described and is unnameable, right? So just learning that a person is Buddhist, you can get a really good idea of how wide or spaced their consciousness is. Because if they say, I practice Buddhism, but I'm not a Buddhist, then you've moved into an even wider consciousness there, because they're utilizing the trade, but they're not tied to it. That's the idea. And so the idea is to take really good tactics, rites, understandings of these different philosophies and religions, cherry pick, and then build your own discernment and decide for yourself, I'm going to apply this part of Buddhism, this part of Christianity, this part of Hinduism, this part of atheism into my ontology. But I'm not going to be allegiant to any one of them. And I'm not going to die for any one of them. You see, not tied in. This is the wise one. And so this is a great way to find out where a person is in their awareness, just by finding out what they practice, just by asking, what do you believe? What do you think? And when you hear that, if you're an awake, aware person, an awakened, aware person, you'll be able to say benignly, without getting caught into it, oh, they're a Christian. Okay. I understand better the way they understand spirituality. Oh, they're a Hindi. Okay, the world is a dream. Nice. That's an interesting philosophy. I totally see how they can believe in that stuff. You see what I'm saying? And this is the wise one, in my opinion. Not getting tied into anything and having tolerance for all of them, and just simply having the guide or the idea, do no harm. Simply do no harm. No harm to yourself and no harm to others. And then go from there. So, yeah, to answer your question, I believe that there are many people who are Buddhists. There are many people who are Christians. There are many people who are Islamic, and whatever the case may be, Jews, atheists, that are very nice people. Just because you believe one day doesn't make you mean. It just renders your awareness. It just renders if you have a wide consciousness or if your consciousness is very small. Okay. What's the next question? Chuck, I found one of your dad's books. This is from High Verbal. Chuck, I found one of your dad's books, Come Before Winter. Yeah. And Share My Hope. Yeah, that was one of my favorite books that he wrote. He wrote another one on the family that I really liked. It was Home Where Life Makes Up Its Mind. It's not in print anymore, but it was one of my favorite books that he wrote. He also, one of his early books, what was it? Killing Giants, Pulling Thorns. I can't remember, but some of his earlier books I read and I liked. Yeah. And it's a sign. My favorite thing. Oh, wait a minute. I didn't finish your statement. Okay, so High Verbal. I found one of your dad's books, Come Before Winter and Share My Hope, in my favorite thrift store. No way, that's fantastic. And it's a signed copy. Dude, I used to see my dad when I was a kid. He would, the publisher would send us cases and cases of books that he had to sign, because they would do, what was it called? Fundraisers to, so if you gave a certain amount of money to Insight for Living, then Dad would send, you would get a signed book from my father. And so I would remember walking down, and he would have stacks of all his books, all hardcover, stacks of all his books. And he would literally be signing every one of them by hand. My dad didn't use a stamp. My dad's the real deal. He didn't use a stamp or anything. He would sign. That signature you see in that book, that is my father's signature. He never has allowed his signature to be printed or any of that stuff. It's meaning a book that he signs, he signs the book. And so he would do that. And he's left-handed. So he would get a knot. My father would get on this finger right here. Let's see if I can see. Yeah. On this finger right here, he would get a knot. Let me go to this side. The knot would be like this big. They'd literally be that big. The knot on his writing left hand middle finger. He still probably well, he doesn't write anymore, so he doesn't have it, but it would be a callus that would form, because when he would write, he would press so hard into the paper. I would sometimes hear him tearing the page because he wrote with such conviction. He wrote with such conviction. But that's pretty cool to find that book. Yeah, everyone just has to find their way. Yeah, I just went to a Zen retreat, Maria said, and learned their way of meditation and loved it. I bet it was fantastic. I bet it was great. I bet it was great. Everybody has their own way, and it's so beautiful to find the ways that resonate with you. That is what's beautiful. I bought a server of Chuck Swindoll books back in the day. Yeah. Yep. Many have his collection. He's written over, I think, 125, 150 books. And then there's also been conglomerations, but he's authored around 125, 150 new, authentic, brand new books. It's incredible. My father's incredible. Let's see. What else we got? What was that? Elucidating Christianity coffee table book for Christmas gifts. Yeah. Stacy is helping me get that set up. While she's here, I'm hoping to get that set up. She apparently has it set up to where you'll be able to buy my book. So she's about to get it all done, but I just wanted to meet with her and talk with her before we got it finalized. Chuck, hi. Have you had any paranormal experiences up in Mount Baker? Interesting that stuck with you. Excited for you. Save an empty plate for me at the table. I will, Fortune. I haven't had any paranormal experiences up here, in fact. I've actually had very few in my life. I had one when I had cancer, which I explained one time. I had one when I had cancer that was paranormal. And then I've had some pretty wild dreams that have come true. But that's about as close to paranormal as I've gotten. Yeah, I do need to create a book. And one of the ideas I've had is to take all my Zen series, which I still have to finish. I have one more talk left to get that series done. But creating a book from that series would be amazing. What was this? Voting will go blockchain. Probably so, yes. Yeah, my dad's got a lot of followers. Dude, my dad's a big dude, man. My dad, he's okay. My dad, when it comes to the Christian world, my dad is nothing short of a god. He's right up there with Billy Graham. He's right up there with James Dobson. He's right up there with that other really popular guy. He did all that stuff on counseling. What was his name? I can't remember his name. I'm hearing a noise. But I can't remember his name. But my father in that world is a giant. He's a giant in the Christian world. If you do just a slight search, you will see him everywhere. I mean, in his heyday, they were on, I think, 160 different countries in 13, 14, 15 languages. He had interpreters all over the world to interpret everything from Mandarin Chinese to German. And radio stations everywhere. My father is an empire in that world. I have the Bible commentary from your father. Chuck Swindoll can't part with it yet. He is such a good writer. He is. My father is a gifted writer. He's a gifted writer. There's no flies in my dad, man. My dad is a gifted man. I love him to death. We just see spirituality different, but I love my father. Our spirituality has nothing to do with our personal relationship with each other. Okay. Yeah, he signs all his own books. Yeah. He's the authentic deal, man. My dad's the authentic deal. Okay, where's the next caps? Chuck, it's so interesting how you learned from your father many goof things, and now you are diving deeper. It's truly fascinating. Yeah, I mean, I was raised by one of the hardest core Christians that's ever lived on this planet. I mean, yeah, I don't know if you could argue that. I was under his direct tutelage. My sister Colleen originally led me to Christ, but it was my father that basically after I said the prayer, I went upstairs and I said the prayer again with my father. But yeah, I was raised in his world. I was raised in my father's world. Be safe this weekend. I will, absolutely. Yeah, we're not doing anything crazy. We're gonna have a wonderful time up at Mount Baker. Yes, I remember the story you shared. Thanks. Yeah, I might share that again on Saturday. Chuck, is there truth in astrogeology? Do you think? Sometimes I feel like my current location is missing something. You'll have to help me get better familiar with astrogeology. That's a astrogeology. You'll enlighten me on that, Gretchen. Yeah, I know. Billy Graham used to sleep with his eyes opened. My father actually was really good friends with Billy and Ruth, his wife Ruth. And my dad would stay personally with Billy from time to time back in the day. And they had a really good relationship, all good. But Billy would sleep with his eyes wide open. Ruth informed my father at one dinner they were having together at some point that Billy slept with his eyes wide open, and it absolutely freaked Ruth out. And a lot of times what happens when people sleep with their eyes wide open is that they have been subject to intense abuse. One of the side effects of highly intensive abuse is to sleep with your eyes wide open. Also, sometimes they're trained to do that. Sometimes they're trained to sleep with the eyes wide open so that the subconscious mind can always be aware of what's happening past the eyelids. Pretty wild stuff, man. Pretty wild stuff. Yeah, he is. You're correct, Miss Red. He's a big deal in the Christian community. You truly honor him as a human. Love that. And I do. I love my father. I love my father. He and I disagree fundamentally, spiritually, but that has nothing to do at all with my love for my father. He's got their mots and many preachers. Yeah, I heard that Billy Graham and his younger associates were doing mushrooms. Has anyone else heard this? No, I've never heard that. Never heard that. But his son they took a picture of him at that Voodoo Donuts, which is really weird. And Voodoo Donuts is a highly satanic donut shop. And he posted, what's Graham's son's name? I can't remember his name, but he posted on Twitter or X or something, all these photos of him at Voodoo Donuts, which was just really weird. So I think Graham was involved. They tried to get my father twice. The CIA tried to capture my dad twice. I'll tell those two stories on Saturday. But they tried to capture him, and my father's integrity won the day. That's no lie. My father's integrity won the day. That's why my father was not a captured man, because he didn't fall for 2 attempts that they tried to capture him. And here's the funny thing, guys. He still to this day doesn't know that. My father thinks, I'm going to tell you guys the scenario Saturday. My father thinks the 2 scenarios that he was in were just authentic life, like it just happened to him. He has no idea that they were operations. He has no idea. He was contacted by Anton LaVey. This is a 3rd time they tried to get him. He was contacted by Anton LaVey to have a debate. I was a very young boy at the time, and I'm convinced that LaVey was coming after me. But that would have been one of the ways they would have captured him, because they would have kidnapped me, and then they would have used me as ransom to compromise my father. So it was really my father's integrity and my father's. My dad is not taken by materialism. He's not taken by big offers. He had all kinds of big offers and people that wanted to really put him on television. And, they were like, Chuck, you could make an unbelievable amount of money. I mean, your stage presence could be sold left and right on televisions. And my dad was like, I'm not interested. So my dad has a ton of integrity, and he loves my mom my dad's love for my mother has been really a gift to me as husband to Jenny, because he's been the ultimate example of a husband in loving their wife. And my dad just adores my mom. And so it's because of his love for mom and his integrity and his love for me and the family that really kept him out. That's why my dad was never captured. He just didn't compromise, and they couldn't buy him because he wasn't interested in taking offers, because my dad doesn't take him with money. He's just like me. We're the same way in that way, not taking with money. And so the normal means and ways that the CIA typically gets these powerful people, my dad completely quelled their attempts. Touche. I'll tell the story Saturday. There's 2 stories. Is the study of how our astrological charts can dictate the best places on Earth for us to live. Well, through the study of the astrological charts, you will better understand who you are. And if you better understand who you are, you will then understand and be able to discern where you would best live on this planet, where you would thrive, That is all self-identity, though. That's knowing the heart. And so the only way one can know the heart is to truly know oneself and love oneself, because then you can hear the words and the speaking of the heart. And the speaking of the heart is, I don't mean words in the sense of real words, but in the yearnings and drawings and callings that you can't control. The draw you had to whatever instrument, the draw you had to your spouse, the draw you have for your kids, the draw you have for your friends. This comes from within you. You don't choose any of that. It comes from within you. Comes from your heart. And the better you know yourself, the better you will know your heart, and therefore the yearnings and desires of the heart, which are unspeakable. And you find that out through your sensitivity. Knowing yourself makes you sensitive. You see, it all works together. It all works together. It all works together. Yeah, they're good stories. They're short stories, not long. But they were operations for sure. They definitely tried to get my dad. Yes, Franklin Graham. That's the one. That's the one that was at Voodoo Donuts. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, what's really wild is that there's someone in our Zoom meeting that we have every Sunday, and that institute that Graham started, that Franklin Graham started. What is it? Hands Helping Hands. What is the name? Well, anyway, that institution, they're buying him a new house. A guy that was flooded. He's in our Zoom, and the floods came through and destroyed his house. He's living in a trailer right now, and he had a beautiful home and everything. And the company that Franklin Graham is behind are coming in to rebuild his house. So it's really interesting like that. And I think it's along the lines of what you see with the guy that started Virgin. What was that guy's name? That started Virgin Records, Virgin Atlantic, Richard Branson. If you see the same kind of pattern with Richard Branson, you'll see he's doing like he's taking all these pictures and doing all this humanitarian work, but the guy's got his own island and human trafficking going on. And it's I don't know if Graham is of that same ilk, maybe, where he's got this whole dark side, and then he's got this other light side, because it's very common of the true Satanist is that they will participate in local church, they'll be a part of the local choir, and everyone will think they're a Christian, but then they're a practicing Satanist, and that no one knows about it. And they like that. A true Satanist loves to deceive, to be a living deception. So they love to be in that space because they deceive everyone, making everyone think they're Christian, and then are practicing Satanist on the other side. And a true Satanist Luciferian loves that dichotomy because they're living in a state of deception and they're wanting to be an evil person. So that's kind of how all that goes. It's kind of all whack the way that they think. Yeah, it helps people. Psilocybin, let's see, it dephosphorylates in the stomach into psilocin, and then psilocin affects your brain. And I'm not sure if it's the same as anandamide, which is the mimic that THC follows. And if you have a spine, then you have response to anandamide. So any creature that has a spine will respond to THC. Now with psilocybin, I think it's a similar kind of gig. I think it's a similar brain state that can be affected with the psilocin, because psilocybin doesn't get past the blood-brain barrier, but psilocin does. And so I would imagine that other creatures with a spine would have a similar reaction. I know that monkeys can get high on mushrooms, Is it true that all the current wars is a distraction from our daily meditation, reaching those STO densities? They're a distraction in the sense of the truth of the matter, but they're not a distraction in that they are real bombs. And there's really people dying. So that's real. This is all part of the dual nature of our existence, in that we're a spiritual as well as a material creature. And so we experience the material world, but at the same time have a realization of the spiritual. And life and living and history and what is happening right now on this planet is both planes. That's why you have these different weird mandala effects and different effects that happen that transcend the 3D realm, material realm. So you'll have these spiritual timelines that interact and cause vibratory shift in the 3D. And so we experience that in some of the stuff that we see and, you know, go through. And so war is of a similar type of realm. Yes, there's soldiers dying. Yes, there's terrible things happening. But there's a whole other storyline that the war is just an offspring of. The war is just a side effect of. And this is this dual aspect of living life, not only in 3D, positive and negative, but in 3D, 4D, from material to spiritual, right? And all these different realities and densities are in play. They're not solid, they're in play. That's why the slit test shows you that the world is a collapse from your head. That's why what your mind isn't any more real than my mind, because the world is a collapse of the authentic. Do you see? You're only getting a portion. You're only getting a piece of the authentic. And it's based on your perception. It's based on how you resonate. So I'm not living in the same world as you. I'm living in the same real as you. I'm not living in the same world as you. Isn't that wild? But that's the reality of our situation, which is why it's so hard to decipher this world. It's so hard to decipher. The Billy Graham mushroom story comes from speculation as to who Paul Stamets is talking about in a Joe Rogan. I don't know anything about that. Too bad about his eyes. Yeah, it's pretty whack. How about that Kenneth Copeland guy? Dude, that guy. Run from that guy's whack, bro. Kenneth Copeland is whack, bro. Whack. Like, gone. Anton LaVey, I've heard much of your personal story. Can't wait to hear the rest. Hope you all have a wonderful time. Yeah, LaVey contacted my father when I was about 8, 9 years old. I was like right when the Satanist wants the young boy. They want him right before puberty. That's one of the keys for some of their rights. I've read on some of what are done to blonde-haired, blue-eyed boys. And so I would have been quite the prize for Anton to land. And I promise you, they would have gotten me. Because my dad is not aware of how entrenched and how evil the group is, the KM. He's not aware. My father is ignorant of their power. And so I could talk to my dad that story about LaVey, and he would never think that LaVey was associated with CIA, but absolutely LaVey was directly tied into the CIA. And LaVey is contacting my father right when he is hitting his heyday. I'm about, let's see, I would have been age, 6, 10. Yeah, so it would have been around 1980, 1979, 78. I'm a 1970s baby. So yeah, perfect time. That's why they came after me. And that would have compromised father. They would have kidnapped me and they would have compromised my father and destroyed my father's life if my father. But he said no to LaVey. He told LaVey he wasn't interested because LaVey I should say all this beside it, but LaVey wanted it to be this power trip because my dad was getting more and more known. He was blowing the doors off. And so LaVey wanted to stroke my dad's ego. And he said to my dad, listen, I'll go to your facility. I'll bring all my own people. We'll go to your place. We'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. It's completely open and up to you. All I want is an audience with your audience. That's what he wanted. Because he wanted to humiliate my father as a part of the ritual, but he wanted an audience with my audience. And so he was like, listen, I'll pay you. I'll be happy to give you whatever amount you would like for the interview. We can talk. And he said, we'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. I won't even have an agenda. We'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. And so the agenda would have been obviously to confuse my father, and then in the background to take me without my father even knowing. And you guys should have seen, there was no security back in that day. And there was this back alley that ran around the back of EV Free Fullerton. It was off of Malvern, and they had a back out, and it was shady behind the church. This is back when Dad was small, dude. This was a small town church before my dad was known. He was just beginning to like, he was on it, but in the late 70s is when his whole career launched, was in the late 70s. And so they had this area back behind the church at EV Free Fullerton. This would have been when I was 6, because they moved in the new building, I think, when I was 8. So this is when I was 6, and they'd have got me. They'd have pulled up a van, and I'd have been kidnapped so fast, and that'd have been it. I'd have been a program. They would have programmed me, and I'd have been finished. I'd have been either put in a satanic ritual or reprogrammed, and they'd have finished my father. But he told them no. He said he wasn't interested. He said he wasn't interested in the limelight, and he wasn't interested in it. He said he didn't want to attract anybody else. You know, my dad, he's a small town guy. My dad's a country boy. He was born in El Campo, Texas. Yeah, country boy. My dad's small town country boy. He never wanted the fame. My dad never wanted the fame. He just wanted to be a pastor. He just wanted to be a pastor. Never had big aspirations for all this stuff. All the success my father had was unplanned. It was just, he was that good. He didn't have a plan or anything. My dad just showed up, wrote the books, and preached the sermons, dude. That's all my dad did. My mom ran everything else. My dad wrote the books and preached the sermons. Talented guy. We'll definitely show this live. I'm calling a friend as soon as we're finished. Thank you all so much. You're welcome, Twisted Pixie. You're welcome. Oh, we're about done here, folks. Any last questions? Any last questions? Did your father ever acknowledge astrological or extraterrestrial reference? No. My father doesn't believe in astrology. He believes it's of the devil. My father thinks that astrology is the devil. That's why when he found out, or I'm sure when he found out that I had done and am involved or was involved in tarot, it just broke in his heart. He thinks all that's demonology. He thinks everything in astrology is demonology. He thinks tarot is demonology. And he doesn't believe in extraterrestrials. He doesn't follow any of that stuff. He doesn't follow any of that stuff. Yeah, a huge thanks to my father. Yeah, huge thanks to my father. Man of integrity. My father's a man of integrity. Listen to Let's see. What else you got? Looks like we're about finished. This is awesome. Hi, Chuck. What were some of the triggers that precede? Sorry, just disappeared. What were some of the triggers that precede the past several resets in humanity? The awareness of human beings. That's what triggers it. I think the cataclysms not only are in time, but I think they're perpetrated. And I think when humanity has gotten more and more and more aware, they just wipe them out, or they wipe out a portion of them, you know, or the portion that was aware. But that's what it's based on. It's based. That's why the Younger Dryas happened, because Atlantis had basically begun to see through the lies. They had begun to move towards STO. Atlantis was between the two. STS and STO. Cantech was STS. Cantech was the one that was high STS. They imploded the planet. They exploded their own planet from the evil. That's how bad Cantech was. But Atlantis was an awakened society, and they definitely had STS. They definitely were evil for sure. But they had a portion of Atlantis was STO. That was that a Native American portion. The Lemurian type of portion was the portion of Atlantis, because Atlantis is us, right? Atlantis is us, was that Lemurian seed carrying down and sprouting, becoming as one of the third societies. There were 3 main societies in Atlantis: the Cantechians, the North Americans, or the Native and the Native American Indians, and then the Asian society, and did I mention the Hindi Aboriginal? So those are the 3 societies. I hope I kept it at 3, but those are the 3 societies. We can go over that when we talk about Atlantis. We good? Why does church people say aliens are devils? And you should only believe in Jesus. Okay. Why does church people say aliens are devils and you should only believe in Jesus? It feels like those people are brainwashed or narrow-minded. They are brainwashed. They are narrow-minded. Your discernment is correct, rulers. Your discernment is correct. They are brainwashed. every single religious fanatic or anyone who believes in just one religion and everybody else is wrong, that believes differently than them, that's a fanatic. That's a brainwashed fanatic, because they don't see any world past their own religion. They're unwilling to see or experience any world outside of their religion. So they're narrow-minded. And this isn't, I'm not crazy talking here. This is basic psychology. You'll see basic psychology. It goes back to Satanism. Jewish mysticism goes back to Satanism. That's why all of those insignias involved in Jewish mysticism are demonic, right? It's demonic language. It goes back to demonism. The roots of Jewish mysticism go back to demonism. That's why Aleister Crowley was using the Psalms in his seances, and he was calling on the angels in the devil in the Bible. That's why he was doing that. And the sigils that they write out on the ground, that's demonic writing. And then they use the names of the angels in the Bible as the calling for the demons that they call to their seances. This is what most Christians don't know, that the book, the Bible itself, is used in the satanic rituals. Many people don't know that. The Bible is used in those satanic rituals. I'm sorry to tell you guys that. Thank you, Chuck. Iconoclast and I don't know about that, but thank you very much, Bill. I appreciate that. I am trying to be an encouragement for sure. Jewish mysticism has Babylonian origins. Yes, that's why it's satanic. It's satanic. Jewish mysticism is Satanism. It's satanic. It's satanic. It's satanic symbolism. You're welcome. You're welcome. Glad to be helped. The black cube. Yes. Islam. Yes, that's satanic. That's Satanism. The black cube is the cross folded. Elohim. L. Yeah, the black cube is also Saturn. L. You're correct. You guys are spot on. Very good, Fortune. L. That's correct. The black cube is Saturn. Saturn is Satan. Come on. You guys know this. You guys know this. This is good. Yeah. It's demonism. Jewish mysticism is demonism that came out of the Canaanites. That's what Jewish mysticism is. It comes out of the Canaanites. What's the best way to decalcify your pineal gland? What's the fourth way? The best way to decalcify your pineal gland is to meditate, and then there's an herb that you take. What is the herb? I know apple cider vinegar helps with it. That detoxifies all your organs, but I'm trying to think of the herb. There's a name of an herb that does it. I also know that mushrooms help soften the pineal gland. Yeah, we got to stop the BS for sure. I'll look it up. I'll find out with the diatomas. Turmeric. Yes, turmeric. I think turmeric is one of them that decalcifies the pineal gland. There's one, though, that I'm trying to think of. I think raising the STO density is madness. Yeah. Well, I love you guys. It's been a great talk today. I thank you all for being here. Thank you for taking the time. It's been great meeting with you guys. We'll be back here. I'll do this every Wednesday. And it's always going to be like this. I literally will go off of what happens in chat. I don't have any agenda. I'm going to go off of what you guys, the capacity that you guys want. And based on what you guys say will be the capacity that we take on. And that's how it'll work. So I will look forward to seeing you guys Saturday. I'll be back on Saturday. We have the show at 5 o'clock on Pacific time, at 5, 6, 7, that's 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock Eastern time. Sorry, my brain's kind of fried. We do that every Saturday, and then we meet on Sundays on Zoom. That's for members. And please, if you are not a member, please become a member. That's how I support myself doing this work, is through the membership. So if you could become a member, that would be fantastic. If my work is helpful to you, inspiring to you, please become a member. And then I also sell swag. We just put out some new t-shirts, new long sleeve t-shirts, as well as the new collector series number 2 is out now. And I designed a long sleeve t-shirt that looks great. It's 100% cotton and it looks fantastic. Please go buy some swag, help support my world. Love you guys. I'll look forward to seeing you soon. We got the big show this weekend. Looking forward to seeing you. Everybody's coming up. We'll see you on the July 18th, which is Saturday. and I'll be live from the show. So you guys will see us. You guys will see us, and I'll look forward to seeing you. We'll be there on Saturday night, man. I'm going to see you guys. It's going to be incredible. I can't wait to see you. All right, I'll see you guys later. Bye bye.